No, it takes a minute to zero.
Gervonta "Tank" Davis has left the boxing world in disbelief with his jaw-dropping transformation ahead of his highly anticipated clash with Jake Paul. Famous for his explosive knockouts and compact build, Tank has clearly stepped up his game, packing on serious muscle and intensity. New gym footage reveals a stronger, bulked-up version of Davis that's got fans and analysts alike wondering, is Tank preparing to match Paul's size and raw power punch for punch?
You were yelling so much about him fighting someone, fight somebody your size. His next opponent is, by far, the most credentialed guy ever fought actively in his prime. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. He fights at 135 pounds.
In preparation for his high-stakes face-off with Jake Paul, Gervonta "Tank" Davis has reportedly turned his training camp into an all-out battlefield against weakness. His current routine blends high-intensity power sessions, extended sparring rounds, and brutal conditioning designed to fuel his recent muscle surge. Sources and gym clips suggest he's added heavier compound lifts to boost his upper body and core strength, all while maintaining his signature agility through speed and movement drills. Insiders also reveal that Tank's been sparring with larger, heavier fighters, some close to heavyweight size, to toughen himself for Paul's size and physicality inside the ring.
Yeah. This Santa Cruz right here, you can't let it burn, baby, let it burn.
Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter.
This is the blues on.
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. Nigga trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
When the night
Camera. Oh,
Okay, light, camera, action.
Light, action, cap.
Come on, Tank, turn him out. Turn him out, Tank. Dig down in there, dig down in there. Don't think about it, don't think about it. Remember that gun on it? They got that gun on that tank, they go time.
when the night is cold.
He ain't gonna keep you here late tonight. Good job.
It's been hard being away from my daughter. You know, she actually here, she sleep. Just being away from her, it was a little touchy, but I know when I'm up, you know, up, I guess. You know, I know that I got pay-per-view. You know, I know I'm fighting a tough opponent, so really I know how to lock in. I know how to shy away from everything. I know how to, I know how to fool around.
Nigga got ringworm.
I said 10 No, don't do no. I can't go on TV looking like that.
Still, the physical gap between the two is hard to ignore. Jake Paul naturally walks around at a much heavier weight, and with the fight capped at 195 pounds. And both men wearing 12-ounce gloves, the challenge for Davis is enormous. Normally competing around 135 pounds, Tank is venturing far beyond his comfort zone to close a massive size and power divide. Experts warn that such drastic bulking could come at a price, potentially dulling the speed, reflexes, and explosiveness that have long defined Davis's devastating fight style.
Jake Paul, Tank Davis fight got moved to Miami.
I think Jake wins.
Jake's just so big, dude.
I think Jake wins.
This is different because it's similar. It's similar to Logan versus Mayweather, but
Jake has
Jake
better
Paul
boxing.
now obviously is way more advanced than where Logan was at that moment in time.
I mean,
Devontae
it's
is
just.
fucking sick.
I mean, yeah. No, but dude,
You
Jake.
ever watch his highlights?
Jake can
He's
crack,
nasty,
man.
bro.
He's so sick. I love that guy, bro.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
UFC President Dana White didn't hold back when asked about the possibility of Jake Paul squaring off against Gervonta Davis. According to White, few fans are genuinely excited for the matchup, but he admits it might still work in Tank's favor. After months of mixed headlines and fading buzz outside the ring, this fight could be the spark Davis needs. With Paul's lucrative offer arriving at a time when Tank's spotlight seemed to dim, the bout could revive his career and bank account alike. White acknowledged that critics see the matchup as more spectacle than sport, yet he believes it could reintroduce Davis to a global audience. He also warned that Paul's height, reach, and raw physicality could give him a major edge, allowing him to smother Davis in close exchanges and sap his offensive rhythm. While White praised Davis's elite skill and timing, he cautioned that stepping into the domain of a naturally bigger brawler like Paul turns this less into a boxing contest and more into a trial of Tank's grit and endurance.
Is picking Jake Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's who I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all, as long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this. Hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight, and says something to the effect that, hey, he was talking to Logan Paul and said, hey, when you were fighting Floyd, you know, there was this, you're a gigantic guy, big size difference. There was a time when Floyd Mayweather Jr. had an overhand right that landed flush on on Logan Paul.
Bare knuckle brawler and former UFC standout Mike Perry didn't pull any punches when weighing in on the rumored showdown between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. Perry blasted Davis for what he called a cash grab, accusing him of chasing headlines and paydays instead of real boxing challenges. He questioned whether Tank still carries the same fire and hunger that once made him a world champion. In Perry's view, Davis stepping in against a YouTuber boxer signals a shift toward fame over legacy. He even went as far as suggesting that Jake Paul's discipline and work ethic might now outshine Davis's. Perry's sharp remarks lit up social media, sparking heated debates about whether Tank's motivation is still rooted in greatness or simply in the spotlight.
Jake is big, Tank has a lot of skill, but I don't think he's the same Tank that we saw the most incredible knockouts. We saw him, Lamont Roach performed great. They went to draw, and I just don't know. And Tank walked away. I don't know if he loves it enough to beat a guy who outweighs him by 80 to 100 pounds.
At the recent face-off, Gervonta Davis looked unusually tense, standing across from Jake Paul, stark contrast to his trademark confidence and swagger. Fans and analysts noticed subtle shifts in his demeanor, tight shoulders, minimal eye contact, and a forced calm that hinted at unease. The stark size gap between the two was impossible to ignore, and for the first time, Tank appeared to truly register the scale of the challenge ahead. Some supporters argue he was simply keeping his composure and conserving energy, while others believe his quiet stance revealed something deeper, perhaps the first flicker of uncertainty in the usually fearless champion.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Legendary trainer and commentator Teddy Atlas also shared his thoughts on the Davis-Paul face-off, highlighting the glaring physical contrast between the two. Atlas quipped that Tank looked so undersized next to Jake he might need a ladder just to land a clean shot. Though he acknowledged that differences in size and style are part of boxing, he insisted this particular matchup stretches that boundary to the extreme. Comparing it to a hypothetical Canelo Alvarez jump to fight Terrence Crawford, Atlas pointed out that even Crawford was never as outsized as Davis appears here. In his words, the fight feels less like a balanced contest and more like a spectacle built around shock value rather than competitive parity.
Things, right? They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract, but I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but a little different. The size difference was, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping. And it made me think, and I'm going to ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm going to ask him, because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Thunder Lips. He was Thunder Lips back there. And I thought I had it right, and it was confirmed to me. It's Rocky 3.
Shakur Stevenson didn't hold back when giving his take on the rumored clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, calling it a bad look for boxing. The undefeated champion dismissed the matchup as more of a business move than a real sporting contest, insisting it lacks genuine competitive value. Stevenson argued that the massive size gap between Paul and Davis strips the fight of authenticity, turning it into a made-for-camera spectacle rather than a test of pure skill. In his view, the bout may generate buzz, but not the kind that elevates the sport.
Maybe he'll fight Jake Paul instead. What do you think of that?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
I mean, I get it, because at the end of the day, it's the money business, and you want to make the most money, but from what I'm hearing, he can make more money in a fight with me, and if that's the case, why not fight me?
Sure. Do you think he beats Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah. I mean,
it's a huge size advantage, though.
It is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now. And in the right situation, I also could see him become a world champion.
Really?
Yeah.
Leonard Ellerb shed light on the situation, revealing that Gervonta Davis was dealing with several personal hurdles and didn't want to add more strain to his plate. According to Ellerb, this dip in motivation was a key reason the fight failed to materialize. Despite heavy fan anticipation, he explained that Tank was prioritizing his mental and personal balance, over-proving himself in the ring at that moment. Stepping back from Freddie Roach's intense training environment, Ellerb added, was simply Tank's way of easing pressure and regaining focus before making his next big move.
Leonard Ellerby said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it. And he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach. And that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Jake Paul's boxing career continues to blur the line between competition and showmanship. Rather than climbing traditional rankings or chasing legitimate title shots, Paul handpicks opponents who fuel viral headlines and massive paydays. From retired MMA veterans to naturally smaller boxers like Gervonta Davis, his matchmaking strategy keeps social media buzzing and his brand constantly in the spotlight. It's a formula that prioritizes spectacle as much as sport, ensuring global attention, no matter how uneven the matchup appears. And that imbalance is exactly what has fans talking. Paul's size, reach, and natural frame give him an undeniable physical edge. Standing several inches taller and carrying far more weight, Paul contrasts sharply with Davis, a 5'5" powerhouse who dominates lighter divisions with speed and knockout precision, rather than raw bulk.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury. But it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy first round knockout for myself.
MMA veteran Nate Diaz had little patience for the buzz surrounding the rumored Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis showdown, bluntly stating he has no interest in predicting the outcome. In Diaz's view, the matchup isn't a genuine sporting contest, but a pay-per-view spectacle built purely for profit. He criticized the direction modern boxing has taken, arguing that money-driven matchups like this one erode the sport's legacy and authenticity. According to Diaz, when entertainment starts outweighing athletic merit, the fight loses its soul. And that's why he refuses to take this one seriously.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. I'm not hating on the fight, but I think my thoughts on it is let's watch it, see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing's turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. What do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and it's getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight, actually.
Michael Bisping voiced strong criticism over Jake Paul's rumored plan to fight Gervonta Davis, calling the massive weight gap between the two a dangerous mismatch. He noted that Jake is targeting an opponent nearly 100 pounds lighter, something that challenges the very balance and fairness of boxing. Bisping reminded fans that Paul's earlier showdown with 58-year-old Mike Tyson already raised ethical questions about matchmaking. Many in the fight world share his frustration, arguing that these odd headline-driven bouts are overshadowing real competition. The proposed Paul versus Davis clash has become a symbol of that growing concern, where spectacle takes precedence over sporting merit.
Heavier. That is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word: whoa, 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 stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
So the real question now is, will this fight spark excitement as a crossover event, or further damage boxing's credibility in the eyes of purists?